We begin with the war in Iran. The U.S. and Iran continue to threaten each other as thousands of U.S. forces arrive in the Middle East. More than 3,500 troops, including 2,500 Marines, arrived in the region just over the weekend. This as the war enters its second month. And there's still mixed messaging from President Trump. He voiced optimism about talks with Iran, then issued new threats to the Iranian regime. He posted on social media, you can see some of that here, threatening to attack Iran's power plants, oil wells, and Karg Island if a deal is not reached soon. Just yesterday, he was asked about the U.S. strategy.
Are you considering still putting boots on the ground, and would you do that without going to Congress?
I just have lots of alternatives. We have tremendous numbers of ships over there. We don't need them all because of, the power. Look, I would say we're just like we're ahead of schedule on the ballroom. In a much bigger way, we're ahead of schedule with Iran.
Now, earlier, the president told the Financial Times he may send troops to Karg Island to, quote, take their oil, but acknowledged that would also mean the U.S. would have to be in Iran for a while. Meanwhile, the White House has not denied a Washington Post report that the Pentagon is preparing for weeks of ground operations. Instead, they say it is the job of the Pentagon to make preparations, but it does not mean the president has made a decision. Iran has said if the U.S. launches a ground invasion, it will step up attacks on U.S. allies. In fact, this oil refinery in Israel is the latest target of Iranian strikes. I want to bring in CBS News Pentagon reporter Eleanor Watson. Ellie, good to see you today. What can you tell us about the arrival of those troops to the region?
Well, Mugo, even as the president is pushing for negotiations, thousands of more troops are arriving, with those 2,500 Marines arriving over the weekend, with more on the way. And we reported just this morning that there are hundreds of special operations forces now in the Middle East. This is all to present the president with options should negotiations fail. Some of those options could include reopening the Strait of Hormuz, seizing highly enriched uranium from inside of Iran, or capturing Karg Island, which, as you mentioned, the president has already threatened. Karg Island is an island deep inside the Persian Gulf that is crucial for Iran's export of oil. About 90% of the oil Iran loads onto tankers for exports come through that terminal. That island, the Marines coming, and some of the elements of the 82nd Airborne Division on their way could be suited for such an option to capture the island. Destroying the oil infrastructure would have larger impacts on the economy, so capturing the island is more likely. But that island is just 15 miles off the coast of Iran, so it is threatened by missiles, by drones, by fast attack boats. So any mission, although doable, would still carry some risks.
Yeah, and what about Yemen's Houthi rebels? They are obviously claiming responsibility for attacks on Israel, and NATO forces have intercepted a missile targeting Turkey. So I guess the question here is, does all of this raise concern that this war is now widening more than the Trump administration had hoped it would?
That has been a concern since the opening days when Iran began retaliating on Gulf states. I'll start with the ballistic missile launched towards Turkey. That's now the third missile NATO forces have launched or have shot down that was launched from Iran targeting Turkey. The more concerning thing, I think, is the Houthis, which entered the fray over the weekend after staying silent since the conflict began. The only reason that could be concerning about widening is because of where they are in Yemen, just on the edge of the Red Sea. With all the concerns we see now about the Strait of Hormuz and the impact there on oil prices, the Red Sea is another crucial hub for traffic. Back right after the war in Gaza began, the Houthis kind of threatened that area, forcing traffic to go around Africa instead of through the Suez Canal. So while the expansion of the kinetic war might not be a concern, there is potentially widening of some economic impacts.
Okay. Eleanor Watson, thank you for your time today and appreciate your insight.